Avi Meyers, Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine, a presentation of Sonny Hirsch and myself. Dial us up on the web at ntnm.org, communitypolicingcaps24.org. I'd like to reintroduce you to somebody who is hoping to have on more frequently during the course of this year. The executive director of Honest Reporting, which is actually located in Skokie, the United States branch, Gary Kenzer. Gary, how you doing?
How are you?
Good, thank you. And
thank you for inviting me back.
First of all, my pleasure, and please enlighten us about honest reporting and what's going on that's actually dishonest.
What's dishonest? Well, you should look at our website because they could see the 2012 Dishonest Reporter of the Year Awards. There's lots of interesting characters, but I want to focus in on the Gaza, what just happened fairly recent.
Sure.
Is for people who are the listeners to this show realize that something happened very differently in this war than in previous wars, and that was Israel took control over the information. You know, the war was declared on Twitter.
Yeah.
You saw what was going on Twitter. You could follow it very clearly, and Israel took control. Thank goodness that Israel finally got the message that social media is how you need to connect people. And it's very different than like the Lebanon war a number of years ago, where Israel, you know, whether it's the air or the ground war, but clearly Israel lost the media war. This time Israel clearly was the victor in the media war perspective. It was amazing. So, but there are certain websites now that actually blame Israel for being too much in control over the message and not letting the reporters control the information flow. But as we know, when reporters control the information flow, it's never to our advantage. We need to be ahead of the message rather than behind, trailing to catch up.
No question. I've always said for all the brilliant minds that are ever in Israel, the one thing they've always lacked is public relations.
Right. So this was a good sign. This was really a good sign. So, but you know, you have your usual suspects who continue to blame Israel for everything, even if it has nothing to do with Israel. You know, so you have the shooting disasters and crimes that go on all over the world, and it's Israel's fault. But we need to remember, the advocates for Israel, we need to remember that clearly it's not even something for the future. It's today, that social media is the way to speak not only to the choir, but to people who are not part of the choir. Okay? Because when you broadcast a message, say on Twitter or on Facebook or whatever you do, not everybody's going to be pro-Israel, but you're going to get your message out, and that's the point in which you begin the dialogue with people. And it's a very important message. You know, too many people call our organization and say, you know, but I know and you know that at the end of time, everybody's going to know that the right way that it is what Israel's doing. And while I believe that, and we all believe that, the fact is social media is so powerful that if we don't get ahead of that message and be part of it, we're going to be trailing behind.
No question. And I've got to say, first of all, 2 of the 3 guests on the show today came as a result of my just wanting to, you know, from Facebook, period. And by the way, Facebook, Avi Meyers, friend, I use it for business, you know, like that's not for jokes and chats. I like it for business. So if you want to see what's on the show or whatever else, Jewish Chicago, Facebook me.
You know, it's interesting. As I was coming here, I heard on radio that they're going back to the old model for Facebook when it first came out, that it's too messy. The screen with the timelines and this and the mess. It's getting messy and people are getting confused. They're going back to the way it was when it first started.
Interesting.
They're switching over, not only for the individual accounts, but the business and the organization accounts also. Back to the way it was when it first started. Simple, clean, not as complicated. But what's fascinating is how powerful Twitter has become.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing. You know, if you talk to people a year ago, 6 months ago, you go, Now, look at what happened on the Notre Dame game.
Yeah.
Okay, the chatter going on after this BCS, game, bowl game, was amazing. How much chatter went on, and that's just from a football game, and it was all on Twitter.
Yeah. Well, I know myself. There's certain things. I'm more of a Facebook person than Twitter, although I also do twit. But, you know, the things I really enjoy on Twitter, I'm an NBA draftaholic. I love the NBA.
Okay.
And I'm really into the draft. And I'll tie myself into all the major NBA writers on ESPN and the various not just the national writers, but the writers I respect in various cities. And it's like I've got a stock ticker of the most current information and links to all the stories and the rumors. And it's like like nirvana for me. I love the NBA.
But see, we have to talk about that, though, from the pro-Israel perspective, because everything today is not like it was even 5 years ago. You know, Twitter's not that old, and Facebook's not that old either, and YouTube, not that old either. So all these social media outlets, they're really not that old anymore. But yet, I think we have a lot of catching up we have to do as advocates for Israel.
There's no question about, well, part of it, I guess, is because of choice of friends, but I see stuff from Honest Reporting. I see stuff from Peggy Shapiro.
Right.
We stand with the Chicago. You know, Michael Heimlich, who's a friend, is always posting very good stuff about Israel. And a bunch of other people, too. It's like I'm seeing more people come to the defense, but then again, you know, I'm more likely to have Jewish people be friends with me on Facebook because I am. So it doesn't mean other people are getting that same look.
I will tell you that I have people who are all over the place when it comes to Israel. I have a lot of people who are anti-Israel. I'll be going out to the West Coast in about a month or so ago, coming up, and I'll be doing several events. That's usually my... People say, my God, you're going to go to San Francisco, you're going to go to the West Coast, isn't that very challenging for you? And I see that as my continuing education. You know, I'm not afraid of the people who are anti-Israel. In fact, I encourage people, if you're really a good advocate for Israel, what do you need to do? You need to understand what it's like from the other side. You need to pick your website, whatever it is. Are we still okay?
Yeah, we're fine.
You need to pick your website and be knowledgeable about how the other side advocates for their position. You know, it's just like debate in high school. When you were in debate in high school or in college, I don't know if you did that.
I did debating in college,
And did you always get the subject that you wanted, that you were for?
No, we had to fight both sides of the same issue.
Exactly. And the most effective people who know the issue from both perspectives are the people who tend to be the most successful at advocating for Israel. You got to understand it. And it's hard. I mean, I read 2 or 3 social media websites a day that are anti-Israel. And it gives me an inside look, and it's not that difficult to find, okay, at what their thinking is so that I could be ahead of the message when the message comes out.
I tell you, I have to force myself. Recently, I mean, I read things from, I like to call her Katrina Vanderhoodlem from The Nation, who's a self-hating Jewess, whether she wants to realize it or not. And speaking of self-hating Jews, I also read a piece in the Washington Post from Jeremy Ben-Ami,
right,
from the We Hate Israel political pack.
You know, it's very difficult, and I give people credit if you can do this. It's just, even if you can pick one website, you've got to understand how they're thinking and how they get to their conclusions, because that's how you could figure out your strategy. If we argue the point from the emotion, we're going to lose.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got to argue it from the head and the heart. We've got to do it with some intelligence and understand what we're talking about. That's why I have no issue with going out to the West Coast and doing sessions. Listen, I've done several sessions for universities where the largest percentage of the students coming were members of an organization called SJP, Students for Justice in Palestine.
Oh, okay.
And Students for Justice in Palestine tends to attract a lot of Jewish kids.
That does not surprise me in the least. I wish it did. It doesn't.
And when I first did this, actually in Orlando, Florida, which is one of the largest chapters, it really was, it pushed a lot of buttons inside of me. But I became ahead of the message and started to learn how they were arguing their points. And it's okay. It's okay. So
knowledge is always good along these lines. At this point, Mickey's hands are pretty much there.
Yep.
So if people would like to contact you, Gary Kenzer from Honest Reporting.
They should definitely give me a call, 847-674-8783, or go to our website, which is honestreporting.com. We're in Skokie, Illinois, just north of Old Orchard.
And friend Honest Reporting on Facebook.
Absolutely.
I want to thank you very much, Gary.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sonny. Join us again next week, everybody.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye.